Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO of Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences per year for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to top digital experts to bring you insights and advice to support your digital journeys. In today's episode, I'll be chatting with Felicia Alexander, who is the Chief Revenue Officer at Title Boxing Club and co-founder and president of BoxUnion. Felicia, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you, Paul. I have your nice, beautiful face taking up my entire computer screen right now.
That's good. That's where I want to be.
Exactly.
So look, the question that I kind of always kick off these things, just to give a little bit of background, is did fitness find you or did you find fitness?
That's a really good question. And my answer is that I've always had a relationship with fitness. So I grew up in a household where my father was an avid cyclist. I remember doing Jane Fonda on Betamax with my mom in our living room. I started playing soccer when I was 4 years old. So I've always been incredibly active and athletic, spent the majority of my life playing competitive soccer. Joining a gym was really important to me. I think my first boutique experience was going to a jazzercise class with my older sister. I think I might've been 8. I was like a little bit of a roly-poly, had the hair full of curls. And my older sister, 4.5 years older, was, this blonde, looked amazing in her leotard. And there's me like half her size and, wider than her, just trying to keep up. But it was super fun. And I joined my first gym at 14, got a job working at a gym in 16. But making my career center around fitness took much longer to get to. So I spent over 20 years in the corporate world. I told my friends in college that one day I would work in fitness. I just didn't know exactly the how or the when. I was really eager to be economically sufficient coming out of high school. My father died suddenly my junior year of high school, left my mom in a mountain of debt. I had a younger sister that still, was just entering middle school. And I just wanted to be self-sufficient and I wanted to be able to take care of myself. So I, graduated college a year early. I should backtrack and let you know, though, that the first time I put on gloves was the summer after my father died. And I went to a boxing gym, and it was truly the most cathartic, transformative experience. It was your stereotypical, dungy, smelly gym. I think the minute the doors opened and I walked in, any noise stopped because one of those things in the room didn't look like the others. And that would be, me. But the gentleman who owned and operated the place could not have been more welcoming. And I felt like an inner badass had been unleashed the moment I put on gloves, and it really felt like unbelievably cathartic. So fast forward, I go to college, I graduate a year early, and I had the real fortune of working for a number of really large companies in sales and marketing roles, working not only in the US, but spending a lot of time working in Europe. My first employer was a company called Sun Microsystems that created the servers that powered the internet. I worked for Mattel doing Barbie marketing for a couple of years. I spent 8.5 years working for Sony Corp of America. And my husband, who was the entrepreneur, saw a pain point I had around fitness, and that was my ability to schedule classes at my favorite boutique studio. That led him to build a mobile app company, which turned into MindBody's mobile platform. His company was acquired by MindBody, and that was the first time.
That's a story in itself. We need to have the husband on the podcast
have him on a different episode for sure.
Yeah, cut to episode.
Exactly. Greg Alexander, folks. But that gave me the opportunity to do something entrepreneurial. And I feel very fortunate because I have an unbelievable business partner. He's a former investment banker. He serves as the CEO of BoxUnion Holdings, which owns Title Boxing Club and BoxUnion. He was a founder at a now public international investment banking firm called Moelis & Company. His wife is a dear friend. We met through our kids over 16 years ago, live
It's
in the same
amazing how
neighborhood.
often that
Yeah.
happens.
No, it's, it's funny because I was talking to someone yesterday and she was like, how did you know that Todd was going to be the right business partner? And I think if you ask either one of us, like we didn't know. We just were passionate, had an idea, and I don't think we gave it much thought. But the fact that we do have different skill set has worked really nicely. And we came upon the idea of starting a boxing fitness concept. One, I had this deeply personal connection, but two, he's a data and analytics guy, and he was looking at the market, studying the data, and all the numbers showed that boxing fitness was skewing predominantly male and older and didn't mimic what boutique fitness on the whole represented. So with that, we had this idea, and tons of people told us we were absolutely crazy and shouldn't be opening a fitness studio.
Yeah,
exactly.
Felicia.
Yeah. Like in LA, what are the two of you who've never, owned or operated a fitness studio? You're not even going to be planning on teaching your classes. How in the world do you think you're going to do this in one of the most competitive fitness markets? But lo and behold, it's like
Look at you now.
Surround yourself with good people. Hire good people.
Yes. Like how much, diving into the background, like how I think the fitness industry always gets criticized in terms of how poor we are in regards to marketing execution and maybe sometimes presenting the wrong messages, etc. How much did that help you have a leg up on the competition in terms of marketing and exposure? Because for like BoxUnion in particular, for a reasonably small brand, you punch way above your weight in terms of brand knowledge. So did that come from the background, or talk to me about that?
Well, I think it's just been doing a lot of things and doing a lot of things consistently. Like there's not like one magic answer. And when we talk to franchise partners or prospective, franchise partners about getting into the title boxing club business, the first thing I love to tell people is like, if you build it, they're not just going to come. You may have good SEO, but it's like figuring out how to be involved and hyper local in your community. So I have a sales background, and I think that has been incredibly beneficial in terms of knowing how to reach out to different groups to figure out how to build awareness. So that if that's tapping into a network of moms that I know across a whole bunch of different schools and figuring out how we can get involved with their fundraising arm of the school, their their PTA organization, or have them bring in their friends after drop off to partake in a class, or going out to companies where I have contacts, or even where I don't, but just know are in the local area, and offering to invite their employees to come in and take a class. Because I was very humbled early on when I would talk to people who lived in very close proximity to my BoxUnion Santa Monica location. And I would say, I have a business called BoxUnion. And they would say, what's that? Like, is it a shipping and packing store?
Fair. I didn't actually think about that. I always put everything through a fitness lens. So I can see how they did that. And so how did Title, so the acquisition side that you guys have made recently with Title Boxing and Rock Steady, how does that fit into the journey?
Oh yeah. So first, let me just clarify. I am involved with Rock Steady in that I serve on their board, and a lot of title clubs participate in Rock Steady, and it's an unbelievable program that uses boxing fitness to help lessen and alleviate the symptoms that many Parkinson's patients have. So it's a program and curriculum that's developed specifically for servicing individuals with a Parkinson's diagnosis. And the genius of Rock Steady is not only I
like the name, by the way, as well.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's, a lot of times that Parkinson's people experience tremors. And what they've noticed in participating in these classes, there's a lot of like balance, there's core work, there's stability, they're doing some mitt work. The tremors tend to lessen for many people who participate in this. So the nice thing about having that relationship and having a lot of our clubs and, clubs beyond Title Boxing Club, as well as senior living facilities offer rock steady programs, is that, there's times in our day where we don't offer classes, where, the working crowd can't get to, and the individuals afflicted by Parkinson's, not always, but sometimes tend to be older and have more flexibility with their schedule. So it's an opportunity to, bring people in during off-peak hour, but also bring people in that, receive tremendous benefit. And I know all of our clubs that offer rock steady programs, it's one of the most rewarding things that they do within their clubs. And then just going back to your other question about, Title Boxing Club and BoxUnion, I'll go back to Todd. When you have a business partner who's an investment banker, he's trained to look for the deal. And we both had really great lives prior to BoxUnion. We were doing well in our careers and working hard, but we quickly learned, clearly not working as hard as we would work going into our own business. But we always wanted to scale. And we didn't think that BoxUnion was just going to be a single location. We are based in California. We're in Los Angeles specifically. And LA, I would say LA, New York, and New York City, and maybe San Francisco were probably the most impacted locations within the US when it came to COVID and the restrictions. So we received a call in 2020 from Title Boxing Club. I think initially they were thinking, could they capitalize on this opportunity to roll up distressed assets and grow the footprint? And after getting off a call with Todd, I was not on that initial call. Todd quickly explained that we were well capitalized, that we were poised to grow. And if anything, we should be buying them. I thought for sure that he hadn't ever had COVID at this point in time, but I was like, maybe he has COVID brain, like something like, what is he thinking?
Because how many sites were you before COVID?
We were 2 that were operational, and we had a third that was weeks away from opening.
Okay. Yeah, just to put some context on the acquisition. It's a big leapfrog. Carry on, sorry. Yeah, so it was a very big, like David and Goliath moment. But the more we talked about it, Title's this unbelievable brand. It has, such history. I mean, the concept is definitely a proven concept. The brand started in 2008, began franchising in, 2010. When we got in and started looking at the data, whether it was like the customer sentiment data that they had from Listen 360, we saw that there were so many similarities between the customer that Title was servicing and the customer that we were dealing with at BoxUnion, even if our boxes and the format looked a little different. We also felt like because we were young and nimble, we could bring a fresh energy and this passion and commitment to learning and development and product innovation into the Title brand. So we took a leap of faith and, decided that this was something that we wanted to do. It would be a great, growth engine. And if anything, we felt like for the franchise partners in the system, we had a lot of empathy and could really relate and understand to their day-to-day plight, given that, we built a brand from the ground up and it had been, working day in and day out on building that. Yeah, and you, I guess, could you say COVID was a bit of a bonding experience in that regard as well? Working with them during that, probably the toughest time of their lives?
Yes. Yes, you could say that. I mean, I think that there was definitely like some battle scars that, all parties, I mean, if you think about it, it's a time of uncertainty, and then they find out that the company is being sold to a business in LA that has, 2 studios, and BoxUnion is known for innovating this concept of boxing to the beat. And I think there was some misnomers in the Title system about, what does this mean? And are they going to really impact the authenticity of the class experience at Title and water it down with this so-called, boxing to the beat. But our head of programming and experience, Kyle Schneider, assembled a really amazing team and traveled extensively to each and every club. Not only did we not make any changes initially, but just go in and observe what was happening and listen, but then go in and on our dime, invest in elevating the program experience. So we rolled out something called Product 2.0. And I think what really differentiates us is the fact that there's a lot of people that, claim to have fitness boxing. And I say that intentionally in that they're leading with fitness and they're sprinkling some boxing in. We're really leading with boxing and incorporating fitness. How do we do that? Well, we've developed this 52-week curriculum. It's a boxer's journey that we're taking people on. And every day we're reinforcing a different focus of the week through a combo of the day. So I was in class yesterday, and the focus of this week is long range punches. And the whole, idea is that when you start a, boxing match, you're not starting, close range where you can throw your, uppercuts and hooks. And it's really about understanding that not only do you need to, jab to the head and cross to the head, but you need to get into the body, because once you start doing those, long range body shots, you're not only bringing your opponent's defense down, but you're also disrupting their breathing. Now, again, we're not training people necessarily to step inside the ring. But we do want them to understand, what it is, give them the skill progression to build on, give them a combo of every day that reinforces the skill, that gives them a North Star, that helps create a flow state, and that they can leave class feeling sweaty, feeling empowered, feeling
like
de-stressed, and ready to take on whatever punches life throws their way.
Yeah, but it's a good analogy for everything. I always take the analogy of, because I've got a boxing history, as you know, and I was like, the joys about business is no one's going to go punch you in the face. So but actually practicing the boxing kind of methodology, it kind of brings everything back. So it's a good empowering tool, right? And fitness is in general, but I feel like boxing holds a special place in my heart. So I won't go off on another fear, because we'll probably be here for half an hour talking about how much we love boxing, Felicia.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's people listening that haven't put on gloves,
do it.
I tell them find the place closest to you. If it's a Title Boxing Club or BoxUnion, amazing, but go put on gloves. I have the most Zen yogis come in and say, I'm a lover, not a fighter. And they put those gloves on and they're like, wow, I had no idea how good that would feel.
I think, and my wife didn't box at all. And now she's been on a journey probably for the last 9 months, with working with a boxing coach here. And she said, it's just amazing how much, essentially make 6 shots really, but how technical they get, and actually how harder it becomes the fitter you get with boxing.
I love that you say that.
Technical, how much progression there is. I think, she kind of compared it, sorry to the CrossFitters out there, but she compared it to CrossFit, where it was a sliding scale down. You got fitter, you got stronger, all the rest of it, but you actually, there was a huge ramp, and then it kind of went through, where boxing is just like this real linear curve of growth and learning. And she's like, when does it stop? So there's a personal story on the boxing, but we've got to stop with how much we love boxing. So your content, because I've always been impressed about how quickly you moved into the digital space with actually really, really well. Trainers done really, really quickly to adapt to serving members through your content. So just talk to me about that journey, because you got that started probably one of the quickest in the industry.
Yeah. So when we were forced to shut down, we only had BoxUnion at that point in time. And right away, our coaches, like many other coaches, took to Instagram and started doing Instagram lives. And it was, what are we going to do for 2 weeks? How are we going to keep our community engaged during the 2 weeks that we have to be closed? What a joke that was. Those 2 weeks turned into like 15 months. And, then we started to see that the timeline was increasing, and other people were setting up GoFundMes. They were putting Venmo links, and it just didn't feel right to us because, we're not a personal charity. I mean, we are a business, and we want there to be some sort of value exchange. To be honest, like, we'd always thought about digital, but it was not something that was on our short-term roadmap. We were really focused on growing the physical footprint of the business. But through a matter of weeks and many calls, we did stand up a pretty awesome subscription service using off-the-shelf technology. And our coaches, I have to commend them. We were limiting the number of people who were going in the studio. So there was, one gentleman we had working for us who had worked as a production assistant a few times. And he was, smart enough to figure out how to order the camera equipment, set it up, and, get everything we needed to be able to upload, large streams of video. And then the coaches, we started with our traditional BoxUnion, box to the beat, shadow box style class. And then as we saw people showing up day in and day out, one of our coaches said, hey, I'd love to try a box and sculpt class, or I'd love to do. And it was amazing because it gave us this test ground to introduce new content. It definitely pushed our coaches outside of their comfort zone, because anyone who's ever done anything in front of a camera knows that it is so much more difficult than in front of a room full of people where you're actually getting feedback in real time.
And talk to me about that, because to be honest, out of the content that I've seen from yourselves, they look like pros pretty damn quickly. You can clearly tell maybe the first 2 weeks, but then from there's a whole lot of consistency. And as you said, I think from operators listening in here, that's probably one of their biggest challenges. Is some of their best instructors cannot deliver to camera, but they want them to, but they can't. And then there's this kind of roadblock in terms of the execution. So what were your rules of thumb or advice there for people listening?
Yeah. The nice thing is, because we've all become accustomed to using things like GoToMeeting and Zoom and Teams and things like that, there's now the ability to give people the opportunity to practice and audition in that format. So you can judge how somebody's going to do. And, really, if you have talent that wants to do that, or you're having them have to film a submission so you can see what they're like on camera, is incredibly important. Because, we would have people try out for us, and we were all in our individual homes, and they were coaches that might have been the best coach in our physical location, and they just couldn't translate, to camera.
Yes. Yeah. Well, because, we've talked to a fair few of operators in this situation, and they were saying that some of those great trainers, why they're great trainers, is they pick up on the human emotions of that situation, and they'll go rogue and maybe swear and do these type of things that you just can't on camera, and it's quite daunting when you don't have any emotional. The camera doesn't have emotions, right? So it's a little bit harder when you actually do it on screen. But okay, so your process was essentially pre-qualification, so making sure that there was. You're selecting good talent, but did that come in terms of your selection committee? Was there one person choosing, or was there more people?
No, there was a handful of us that were watching and giving input, and we were lucky in that the first two people, our two master coaches, Tara and Kyle, they were both great from the get-go. They got even better over time, but they did a really good job. Okay,
that's cool. And how do you see? How are you inbuilding content moving forward? I think there's a lot of the buzzword I'm hearing at the moment is the Disney strategy. So Disney just posted how much Disney Plus has affected their other business units in terms of not just this Disney Plus by itself, the other business units where they can understand, it's the whole, hey, look, if I get Mickey Mouse getting watched, then I can spend more time on Mickey Mouse in the parks, have that great experience, then they're going to engage with Mickey Mouse even more. But a lot of the executive teams of Disney were saying that actually it takes a lot of cost structure out because you understand what people want to watch. So rather than spending lots on ideas that actually don't fly, they actually say, well, here we go, we can put this content title on, see how it works in a series, we can make it then a movie, and then we can make it into our parks. And I think a lot of fitness operators are following that same idea. Like what's your view in terms of how digital and content, I guess, they're both intertwined, plays with BoxUnion and Total Boxing?
Yeah. So, we, like many people, were ecstatic to see our subscription numbers skyrocket. And what we
Felicia did very well, by the way. I won't give the numbers away, but she did very well.
But, what we started to see as, state restrictions lifted, as time went on, as consumer fear around the pandemic started to dissipate, was that, the consumption started to decrease, and the rate at which we were growing new subscribers started to decrease. And at the end of the day, there are other companies who solely exist and all they think about is how do they deliver a fitness experience online. And we're really thinking first and foremost about how do we deliver an amazing experience inside our four walls. So we see the digital content being very additive to our member base and a way to increase the lifetime value of a member. Consumers' behavior patterns have fundamentally changed where, many people have yet to return to an office. Those that have are no longer required to necessarily go to an office every day. And that means that the number of days they might actually physically come take a class has, in some cases decreased post-pandemic. But they still have this affinity and connection to the brand. So I think we see that a lot more consumption of shorter form videos done at home. And also sometimes things that are more like body part specific. It might be, the core series, or it might be, glutes section. But it did give us the ability to pilot different class formats.
I think we're seeing, and I know you do this as well, is like the supplementary series that supports the main activity. So we're actually seeing people that are creating their own content rather than just using third party. Like mobilization series are just flying, like literally 40% so supporting the activity that you're doing. So if it's healthy hips or healthy back or whatever, it's amazing how much they want to utilize that, because I think actually in a way they were probably utilizing someone else's content for that rather than actually the club operator or the operations that they should be embracing and looking after them. So I think you've done very well there as well, and I think it's spot on. So then we've come out of COVID, post pandemic, from an overall point of view, bricks and mortar, digital, all this combined. Like, how do you see the future playing out of fitness in your space and in the boxing space?
Yeah. Can I go back to the previous topic we were talking about? Please, I think also what COVID taught us was how to create content that we could use in a number of different facets that can be really impactful for our business. So for instance, we have a learning management system called Title University, and we're constantly filming content for Title University. And the audience of that content is, the franchise owner, it could be the general manager, or it could be the head coach of a club. So we're giving them on a monthly basis all of the video education around the combination, around the focus of the week, the combo of the day, and how to teach these elements in a class. We've also then created content that lives in our app. So when you log on to go book a class, you're going to see what the focus of the week is, and you're going to get a video from one of the master coaches explaining it. So when you walk into the club to take the class, you already have, an idea of the skill that you're going to be working on. And I don't know that we would have developed the prowess or the ability to use and leverage video in that way to, enhance and scale our training initiatives.
Kind of normalized it a little bit, right? Like, but I think it was also, I don't know, was it driven because every what I'm seeing now, and you kind of see it on the stats, like you can see YouTube and every single video platform is just skyrocketing, where the traditional text as an interface is slowly dying, really, isn't it? And then it's getting, of course, the video format's getting shorter and shorter, like TikTok, to be able to do so. So I think our attention spans have changed significantly in regards to how COVID has affected us. But I think utilizing it, just facing that reality and delivering content to support those attention spans makes total sense when you're trying to, because how many sites are you at now combined?
130.
Yeah, so you can't go around 130 sites training that all the time, or sending an email and expect them to deliver it based off an email, right? So
exactly.
Okay, and then how often are you using the training side video uploads on a regular basis?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I can't preach anymore. I'd say yes, spot on. Then I guess how so moving. We're coming out of post-pandemic now. How do you see? I guess you can say fitness in general, fitness and wellness in general, or boxing in specific, in terms of how you play in the space moving forward.
2023 is off to a great start.
Nice.
If we remembered 2022, we thought we were off to the races, and then there was the Omicron, and that kind of put a wrench in things. So I would say that 2023 is off to an amazing start. And anecdotally, just being in the clubs a lot myself, I see this sense of excitement and enthusiasm of people to really want to be out of their homes, wanting to really be around other people, creating connection, and be in an environment where they feel you and pushed.
Yeah.
So, we're seeing strong numbers.
Do you think a community solution, because you're very, the clubs I've seen at least, are very community orientated. Do you think a community solution has an advantage over the traditional kind of big box clubs here? Because they do, if everyone's working from home, then actually they want a third place to go to that's with their friends, with an environment that they want to be in.
I mean, I think that there's, there's boutique is special. It's special in that, we want you to show up. We don't want you to pay and never come. A class with more people in it is a lot more invigorating than an emptier class. And it's also because of the fact that, we're dealing with a manageable number of people in each class. Let's call it, between 35 and 40 people. You get that opportunity to really get to know individuals within the class, and you start to see friendships that are formed because, people inevitably have time before class starts in the lobby. Conversations, are formed, whether it's over, somebody's amazing, pair of leggings or shoes, or the fact that their, gloves are all nice and shiny.
Yes.
And, the coaches also do a really good job of introducing people to one another.
Actually,
so
quick question. I should have asked when we're talking about the content stuff, but did you notice the people that were shooting content became a little bit more of a rock star status? And when they came back to delivering live?
Yes. Yes. And it was also great because there were people who were too scared to ever come into a BoxUnion, but when they started to see us do things, online, that gave them the confidence to try from the anonymity of their own home. And then when, the clubs reopened, they came in and booked with that person who had taught them online. But I would also say that in the club, we see the same thing where if you take your first class with Corey, chances are when I see you show up for your second, third, fourth class, you're going with that person because it's you stepped out of your comfort zone, you took that risk, you survived the experience, they made you feel, comfortable, and there's that sense of familiarity.
Well, and that's the power, that's the rock stars of our people in our industry, right? Those are the people that we need to get scaling both on live and digital. Okay. And then what, have you got a viewpoint around, so a few operators are doing a viewpoint of, if they're delivering content and becoming rock stars. Of course, they've got a full-time job on that, but they haven't actually ever so a lot of people are moving away from having Corey, let's say, as an example, at 9 a.m. on a Friday and actually making them more scarce. So they put them around different locations. So it's like an event to book Corey now at, I don't know, Santa Monica one, or, and then next one it's in LA, as LA Central, or, so they're always in different spots rather than, so building the scarcity of that person rather than having them on a regular timetable. Have you thought about that, or is that coming to the radar?
It's interesting that you asked that, but what we've found that works really better is having, like, all of our coaches are unbelievably amazing.
Sure.
And the way that they get to be even better is by having a lot of exposure and visibility within a single location. Because if you start to, bring them around from place to place, it's hard to create that community. It's hard
100%.
to give them enough exposure.
Yes.
I see how it would work if you had people who maybe led like digital first, and then you had them popping up and doing events. But for the way that we operate our business, we really like to headline a coach
community consistency.
In a location. They might teach between two different locations, but we want to give them enough exposure in each location to be able to develop a following.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, look, I don't. With the podcast sometimes can go on for a long time. So, and users and viewers have always said, keep it to half an hour. So I think we'll finish it there. How does everyone get in touch with you, Felicia?
Personally, I'm on LinkedIn, Felicia Alexander. You can also go to Instagram, find me at Fees La La Land. Please also check out at BoxUnion Studio and at Title Boxing Club.
And the team will post it, I'm sure, in all of the social formats when we launch this. And then probably final bit of advice, if all the operators that are here looking to how do they stay relevant, you've done a lot of thinking about how to stay relevant and actually given some great advice during this call. What would be your 3 bits of advice to stay relevant in this ever-changing fitness market?
The first thing is step outside your bubble. I'm always so surprised when I talk to people and they're not actually spending time to go see what else is happening in the wellness community in their market. I get so much benefit from the friendships I've developed with other studio owners, not only in my market, but across the country. So don't have this scarcity mindset of, like everybody's competition. Like the only competition we all have is the people who have decided that sitting on their couch and not working out is a better place to be than in our studios and gyms.
Hallelujah. Yeah, well said. Beautifully said. Anything else?
I would also say that it is incredibly important to listen and have some way of understanding what customers are telling you. So there's a lot of great software tools out there. We happen to use Listen 360, and there's so much insight and knowledge that can be gleaned when you're hearing it directly from those who are interacting most intimately with your product or service.
Yeah. And how do you use Listen 360 in terms of getting it back to the team and making changes?
There's a number of different ways. I think it depends on, the feedback and also how often something comes up. But it can be a great teaching tool, and it can be a great opportunity to introduce something, whether it be, a new time slot, a new product, a new service, new amenity. It can also be a great opportunity to find an ambassador, because those people who are, giving you high scores and taking the time to write a personal comment are definitely those people that you want to hit up and ask for referrals.
Respect the advice because they actually care about the business enough to write what there needs to be improved.
Yeah.
They've been there. Okay, Great advice. All right. Well, look, thank you very much for joining us. I think the insight's been awesome, and it's good to have more of a boutique view than the traditional big box clubs. Sorry, big box clubs. So, and of course, very much down the boxing line as well, which I love. So, love speaking to you. Appreciate the time, Felicia. Thank you.
Thank you.